cricket conversation following on Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2.
Thank you for joining us here on talkSPORT 2 or via the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. This is following on Ashes Inquest. I'm Jon Norman alongside Steve Harmison. You may also be listening via the following on podcast feed. Hit subscribe there or on the YouTube channel, or just sit back and listen. 15 years ago, next month, I got married, Harmy, and 10 days before that, I watched England win an Ashes Test match in Sydney. It's our 15-year wedding anniversary next month, and finally I've seen England win another Test match. That's quite something. Question for you: what was the worst pitch, Melbourne 2025 or Melbourne 2017?
I am Melbourne 2025. I was wondering where you were going with that, and I think Fee would have been worried about it. But she listens to this, but
She doesn't.
No, I think this one. I don't want to sort of dwell too much on the pitch because, yes, it was substandard. Yes, it's not good enough for Test match cricket, and all that can be said at a later date and further down the line because the resilience of character, the togetherness this group have got themselves in a position where they were 3 days before the Test match. They were nowhere. I was like, they might as well come home. And to show the character that this group have got, to get themselves in a position to win the game when they went a bowler down, on a pitch which was probably worse than what it was in Melbourne in 2017, shows great character. It really does. Stokes and Root got their first win on Australian soil, over 5,000 days. And good on them. You know, they've always had a plan. Even listening to Rob Key, England's main director of cricket, before the Test match, England came with a plan. Some would argue it was the wrong plan, and it wasn't executed. England came in the fourth innings with a plan. After Australia got a bit stuck, when England set the tone brilliantly, I thought, with a ball. First up this morning, I thought Carse was excellent. He took some stick. He got it a bit fuller. He gave the ball a chance to swing. He got lateral movement, both off the pitch and through the air, and was a real menace. I'll cover with the fact that Josh Tongue and Ben Stokes, when Gus Atkinson went off, backed them up brilliantly. It was a brilliant day for England on this tour, and something for the Barmy Army to cheer because I thought they were absolutely magnificent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the talkSPORT presenters, Ollie Klink, is in the crowd, has been in the crowd for the last couple of days. It certainly looked at quite a party. And I remember what it was like being with the Barmy Army in 2010 when England won at Melbourne. Bowling Australia out famously for 98, and then Sir Alistair Cook, and I don't know if he's what he is these days, a lord or a sir or whatever. Sir Andrew Strauss put on 157 without losing a wicket. I mean, what a day that was back in 2010. Do you know what? Let's just strip this all away. England, I think cricket needed that win. Obviously not if you're in Australia, right? And I'm not talking about the moral Ashes. What I'm talking about is whatever you think of Ben Stokes, Brendan McCullum, Rob Key, Bazball, moral Ashes, hubris, whatever, right? That brand of cricket attracted a new fan to the sport. I don't often disagree with George DeBell. Well, actually, I do disagree with him a lot, but I usually disagree to his face when we talk and we argue. But I did see a video of his a couple of days ago on the Cricketer's excellent website, him and Mel Farrell. And he was saying how England always sell out Test cricket. One of the things that people say about Bazball is it brings fans to the ground. And his point was, I didn't see the whole video, I just saw a clip. This is how we base everything these days, on a 13-second social media clip. Show Bashir, for instance. And he said, England always sells out Test cricket. But actually they didn't. Because the India tour before this one in 2025, which basically had full houses every single day for 25 days, they days 3 and 4 were not sold out at many of the grounds around the country. And personally, I might be wrong, I put a lot of that down to Bazball. I think it did attract a new audience. And I just had the feeling, and I think this is a lottery win, right? I appreciate the character that you're talking about to bring together and keep the show on the road. I think well done to Ben Stokes for doing that, for sure. But essentially, I think if England had lost 5-0 and gone back to England with their tail between their legs, and they may still do that 4-1 down, but I'm not so sure about that, by the way, now. I think if they'd done that, then a lot of the good work that had been done between the years 2022 and 2024 would have been undone. And a lot of those fans who were drawn to the Test arena, I think they would have gone. And so I think this win, and hopefully one at the SCG, on a more fair pitch, because this pitch was wretched. Hopefully, if England can win that, and there'll be regrets, there will be mistakes, and they will hold up their hands and say we got some stuff wrong. But at least Bazball won't become a footnote in the minds of thousands of sports fans and non-sports fans who have been drawn to this England cricket team. You know, maybe they will still stick around. And at the start of the year, we were all hearing about Bazball, 2.0. Maybe there will be a new incarnation of Bazball. And there wouldn't be, or won't be, a new incarnation, a better incarnation, if England had got beaten at the MCG and then went to the SCG and lost. So I think that win today has been hugely important for cricket in this country and possibly in other countries as well.
Yeah, I think hugely important for this country, because what we'll get, which had already started at the end of it, and I had my say, and talking about Ben Stokes staying, Rob Key staying, but Brendan McCullum going. There's always a fallout, and there's loads in what you just said, and that's probably for another day after Sydney when we review the Test match, review the series. Probably myself, you, Goffey, Jared, whatever comes with what comes next. But I think a lot of people were talking about the end of Bazball. England will always sell out because Test match cricket in England is a very, very popular brand, no matter who's in charge, whether it's Ruud Silverwood, Giles, Strauss before that, when we only won one Test match in 17, or whether it's Bazball, all singing, all dancing, whether it's the first 2 years, which was breathtaking, the last 18 months, which has been much more tougher, which I think possibly a culmination of things, of England taking an eye off the ball, England believing in their own hype and success, and that's come unstuck against some good sides. Where I see this going, if England can manage to somehow get themselves in a position to win in Sydney, then all of a sudden, I'm not saying I'm 100% categorically McCullum stays, but listening to Rob Key in an interview with Nasser and others, which I thought was a very, very good interview and an honest interview by two guys who know Rob really well, probed him, quite well, and it wasn't a matey interview. It was a tough questioning. It was an all singing, all dancing, and Rob didn't shirk the responsibility. And all of a sudden, I think, hopefully, once it's all said and done and sat down, if it is 3-2, yes, the crux of the matter is when the series is on the line, we were nowhere. But the biggest thing in the world is to admit you were wrong. The biggest thing in the world to admit that your first instinct was the wrong instinct and the way things went. If there's good comes out of that, you tend to learn quicker and you put things in place which makes things better. And that possibly is what this victory has done when it comes to coming back home, that if England can manage themselves right, we didn't do that right, but there's nothing we can do about it, but we'll learn from it and we'll be better from it. And it's about the learning, where that learning takes us, hopefully is a better place, because winning against India and winning against Australia is the barometer of where this England cricket team needs to be. So I agree, it is a big win for England in where the next step is, whether it's Key, McCullum, Stokes carry on and move to a more controlled plan, or it's in the next step. Hopefully with Ben Stokes still in charge, because you know what, I felt for Ben Stokes this week, really did. Yes, he's England captain. Yes, he can talk about financial rewards and everything you come, but when it's all said and done, when the doors close, like I mention all the time, and you're in that darkened room and the lights are off and you're lying there with 1,000,001 things going through your mind, that would have been a lonely place for Ben this last few days, because of everything that's been thrown at him, with Noosa losing the Ashes, potentially going down 5-0. I was so pleased to see him in an interview at the end of the game there, because he wasn't pushed in interview, but I thought he got the tone right. I thought he got his words right, and I thought he respected what this series has been, while still being proud of his team for coming back and showing great attitude, great character, and a togetherness, which has got them a win in front of a magnificent crowd.
Let's hear from the skipper, Ben Stokes.
We got the win, but honestly, it's not sort of what you want, really. It was, I was heavily excited for one skill of the game. Not ideal, game lasting less than 2 days, but when you take all that away, you are confronted with conditions, and what you've then got to do is decide on what's the best mode of operation to be able to give you the most chance of success. Chasing 170 was always going to be difficult, but I thought the way that we took the game on from the outset was the exact way that we needed to do that. Australia have bowlers who are absolutely impeccable with their line and length all the time, and one thing we couldn't do as a batting group was let them consistently run up and be able to bowl where they wanted to without putting them under pressure. So using our feet, coming down the wicket, trying to hit them over the top, and then spreading the field so then we could rotate the strike was so important on that wicket. Both teams have got Joe Root and Steve Smith, and when they make it look quite difficult, it's tough to be able to try and build an innings like you normally associate with Test cricket. So, I'm real proud of the way in which we went about it there in that run chase. It could have been a lot more difficult if we did just try and hang in there and try and knock those runs down slowly. But Zach Crawley, Jacob Bethel, and then the way that Brookie came in and didn't try and slow down was, pretty good.
Ben Stokes speaking to TNT there. Listen to this, Harmy. This has just dropped on the... we're part of media WhatsApp groups, of course. Media alert. What? MCC press conference. We're not talking about the Marylebone. We're not talking about the Marylebone Cricket Club here. Who? Melbourne Cricket Club CEO Stuart Fox and head curator Matthew Page will be chatting to the media tomorrow in Australia. 6 scores of 30 or more across the course of this 2 days. It's a test match that's going to cost Cricket Australia, I'm guessing, but if the Perth test match cost them $3.5 million Australian dollars, you can probably double that for this one.
Yeah.
Right? So you're looking at the best part of $10 million shortfall. And it was a lottery. And, Alistair Cook was saying it on commentary. I mean, so you don't have to go far on social media. I sent a couple of... even Kevin Peterson was weighing in on it. It's so many people getting involved. Michael Vaughan, Barrett Sanderson. I mean, more and more people getting involved saying that this pitch was just not good enough. It wasn't even exciting. It was... it was just really poor. It was low quality. It was low quality cricket. I mean, watching Mitchell Starc bowl at the start of that innings, like Ben Duckett, I think could have been out 10 times. Right? 10 times. Zach Crawley could have probably been out 7 times. Even Jacob Bethel could have been out 4 or 5 times. Some of those balls that were delivered by Mitchell Starc to Ben Duckett at the start of his innings were too good for Don Bradman. They were bowled at 93 miles an hour. They were swinging. They were seaming. I mean, he couldn't lay a bat on it. I don't think anybody could lay a bat on it. It was so stunted in favour of the bowlers. It was just a miracle if you survived. And of course, this is when you play baseball. Of course it is, right? And at no point did I think England wouldn't lose. But that pitch was really poor. We just got to hope that the SCG, and, you know, from the reports that were written in the build-up to this Test match, Todd Murphy might not play in that one either. We could have a Test series, an Ashes Test series, where England don't field a frontline spinner in 5 tests, and Australia field a frontline spinner in 2 tests, but in one of those tests, he bowls 1 over. That's just, well, it's a 4-letter word which I can't say on radio.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to disagree with any of that. And I don't think a frontline spinner will play in the next Test for England. I think Bashir, I think Potts, possibly Fisher, probably Potts comes in for Atkinson, and England will go with the other 10 that carried on. And you know, like Ben said, you know, the great Steve Smith and Joe Root had a struggle. It was a lottery. It was a poor pitch. It was nowhere near good enough for Test match cricket. When you look at what the history of the Ashes and what the Ashes means to the international game, the bowling attack that's on it, you know, the batters that were on show, talking about, you know, somebody's got 11,000 Test runs, somebody's got 13,500 Test match runs. Melbourne Cricket Ground on Boxing Day is one of the biggest occasions in world cricket. But in 93, 94,000, and today is 1-2. To have a surface like that, you wouldn't even get at a sort of level 4, level 5, dampened, you know, village cricket game. I think it's a disgrace to the game of cricket. The players didn't deserve that surface. The players deserved a better surface. And like I said yesterday, England, you know, Australia have had a plan against England to play on a wicket which does a bit. Sydney might do a little bit, but I can't imagine it being anywhere near as bad as that. There's a difference between good bowling and just putting the ball anywhere and letting the pitch do the talking. Putting the ball anywhere and letting the pitch do the talking was easy enough on that surface. So I can't imagine Sydney being like that. There's a lot of rivalry between Melbourne, Victoria and Sydney, so you New South Wales. So I'd imagine there will be a flatter pitch, better surface, more of a contest. Australian cricket needs it because they need to recoup some cash and get a game going into the 4th and 5th day. And your point right at the very start, I mean, making a joke of, you know, the curator or whatever his title is now, fancy title is now, and the chief exec of the Melbourne Cricket Association speaking tomorrow. If you're an England player now, you can go and do what you want. You're not getting on the front page tomorrow morning. You can drink as much as you want, get videoed as much as you want. Because you're not getting on the front page tomorrow, because these two are. And that, for me, I mean, all jokes aside, the pitch was a joke, but I didn't really want to talk too much about the surface because I didn't want to take away. Sat here for a few days now and bombarded and been so negative towards the England team. And for me, whatever surface you play on, if you find a way to win, brilliant characteristic to have. England chasing the biggest total of the match on 4th innings, found a way to win. After everything's been thrown at them, I am so pleased for Ben Stokes and his team getting themselves in a position to win that match and getting themselves over the line.
Did Australia look tired today?
Yeah, I think they did. I think it's one of them ones. I mentioned to you off air before. You know, I didn't pick up on it yesterday. I picked it up on this morning. It was just before play today. That in low-scoring events, sometimes the hardest part of getting yourselves into a winning position is knowing what sort of score you need to win from a 4th innings point of view. And sometimes, like England did I think England have done to Australia what Australia did to England in Perth, where England didn't know, got caught between a rock and a hard place. Do we go harder? Do we try and absorb this? Can we take the 3rd innings into a position where England need 200, 220, 250? What's the good score? And all of a sudden, by the time you've worked that out, you're 7 down, 8 down, the horse is bolted. And yes, England are chasing 1-7-7 to win, but you're still clarity of clarity of message, clarity of what's in front of you, and the game situation is going and getting that 177. And in England are very, very good at that when the roadmap is right in front of them. A lot more positive players, a lot more sort of, I would say, white ball dominating players. I thought it was a perfect storm for England. They set the tone brilliantly with the ball. I thought Carse was very, very good in his first 2 or 3 overs, which growing him in confidence. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, and I'll come back to what we said, and I didn't really want to be negative, I talked about preparations and going into it. We have lost a lot of bowlers in this series. England have lost a bowler, nearly a bowler per test match. That comes down to the condition, and because let's be fair, it's not down to workload, because there's been very little workload in this. I mean, this test match is about 143, 144 overs old. That's it. So it's not about workload. Stark looked tired in Adelaide. He looked a bit better here, but still didn't have the sort of the zip that Starks had in the first 2 test matches. Nisa and Richardson are what they are, which are sort of backup test match bowlers. So Green looks as though his body's not all at it. So I think England capitalised on that. And yes, Australia probably did look a bit tired.
It doesn't bode well if, come the SCG. So England started out at the beginning of this series with Archer, Atkinson and Wood. And it's almost certainly none of those 3 will be playing in Sydney. Carse and Stokes will bowl through though, so they would have bowled all 5.
Yeah.
And of course, Australia were without Pat Cummins for the first 2 test matches. They were without Josh Hazlewood for all of it. And Nathan and I bowled it over or so. But essentially, there is every chance that Mitchell Starc will not play, which will mean no Cummins, no Starc, no Hazlewood and no Lyon for that 5th test match. Boland will go through, you imagine. They've got a big question about Green, haven't they?
Yeah.
Because, his dismissal again, of the whole series, 3 of his dismissals have been the 3 worst dismissals in the series or down there. So they got a decision there. Maybe Webster comes in. Maybe they feel they need to change it. But again, you want the best versus the best. And it looks like Australia's top 4 bowlers, with respect to Scott Boland, who should probably feature in top 4, they won't be bowling. And 3 of England's top 4 bowlers aren't going to be bowling either.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk of how the negativity towards county cricket and county cricket schedule and getting the best against the best and on the park. But test match cricket's exactly the same. International calendars are exactly the same. 3 3 ODIs, 3 T20s on the cusp of an Ashes tour. Going into 5 test matches, 3 of them back to back at the end. You're asking a lot out of the human body, which is the game's getting a little bit faster and the game's getting a little bit more demanding on a body which isn't as conditioned. I'm not saying it isn't as conditioned, it's probably better conditioned than what it was 20 odd years ago. But I think 20 odd years ago, there was more time for preparation, get miles in legs and bowlers be ready to conquer what is a 5 test match series. And the best bowlers, very little change. And if you are changing, it's tactically changing rather than, changing from a fitness point of view, which is, I think, the nature of where international cricket and domestic cricket, because county cricket's got the same arguments. And we are going to suffer because we might get 4 days of test match cricket because the quality of the bowlers might not be up to the standard that, we would hope to have. Did I think Wood, Archer and Atkinson would be still playing in Sydney? Mm-hmm. No chance. Absolutely no chance. And that's why, I felt as though England missed a trick right at the very start, that they needed to get off to a good start in Perth and Brisbane because of what the bowling unit could look like. And I'll come back to what I've said many times throughout this test match series. Ben Stokes looks across and sees Bryden Carse as somebody who he can rely on. It might be expensive. It might go all over the shop every now and again. But there's two things Bryden Carse has been throughout a lot of his Test match career since he made his debut. Was he takes wicket? He's a wicket-taking bowler who is durable and who will run in and bowl at 135 to 140 every time he delivers the ball. And I think that's why Bryden Carse has played in the 4 Test matches. And it looks like he's probably going to have to keep going in Sydney as well. So, yes, we are going to be depleted, but we'll still have a good contest, and that probably will make the contest go into probably day 4 and possibly day 5, because the bowlers on both sides won't be the A-listers that we had or we were expecting before the series started.
Westminster 77 says Matt Page, OBE. Steve says England will give the curator a knighthood. Non-cookie cutter says we've had our 3-match warm-up now and we're 1-0 up in the series. Prafty says, went to the test today, so disappointed in the pitch. There's only 1 test a year in Melbourne and I only got 2 days. Tom Taylor says Cam Green is still living off that 1 innings in New Zealand. What, 3 years ago? I think it was a bit more recent than that. It was last winter, I think, on the start of last year, maybe. Hasn't done anything since, and Kroom agrees. Webster should be in for Green. Not done much wrong and got dropped. Arjun says, what has happened to Labuschagne? Well, I think Labuschagne should be out there. I think Australia need to move on from... I think Khawaja was always going to end his career in Sydney. It's where it started. In that same series back in 2010-11. And Labuschagne, I think the best description I heard or read about Labuschagne is he's gone back to how he was just before he got dropped last time. He's playing to stay in rather than playing to score. Yeah. And again, well, you know, there was a little bit of controversy about that catch, but at the end of the day, I don't think it made a great deal of difference. We'll never know. Let's end the show, though, by talking about a couple of the positives. I feel like I've been a little bit moody, considering England have just won.
You've been up all night, John.
That's why. Yeah, I've been up all night. and I was in A&E last night. I didn't even tell you guys about that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just for a couple of hours. It's all right. But anyway, look, Jacob Bethel played. I'm not going to go to town on it because he could have been out about 5 times. But boy, oh boy, there's just something about that guy. You know, it reminded me of how impressed we were this time last year when we were commentating on him in New Zealand. He's got a terrific second innings record. His first innings record needs a bit of work. He still reminds me a bit of Andrew Strauss. But he plays some nice cricket shots. You know, he got on top of the conditions and the occasion. It was actually a surprise when he was out in the end because, you know, it was really tough at the start, but it did seem to ease up a bit. So that's a big plus for England. They gambled. They put him in at 3. They'll probably regret not doing that against Zimbabwe earlier this year. I think Rob Key alluded to that. But that was good to see. And Josh Tongue, again, he takes wickets. Harmy. So
he does.
Two big pluses, and he was player of the match as well. Josh Tongue.
Yeah, he was. He deserved to play the match. We got England in a good position in first innings, and I thought he bowled really well again in second innings. And I got the wickets he deserved. I thought, but I'm pleased Carse got the 4 wickets he got because he, you know, said previously he's just carried on and he's just relentlessly kept going for England. Not always good, but he still kept going. And I think Josh Tongue, that fuller length that he can bowl, he's got the heavy ball that bowls in around that sort of 5.5 metre length, which can push him batter back. It's again, can they stay durable? Can they stay fit enough to put a run of games together to build a meaningful attack, which has got, you know, all bases covered? The Bethel one, do you know what? I agreed with what Michael Vaughan was saying. I thought it was a big ask, huge ask. You know, to chuck him in at number 3 in Melbourne, in front of all them people on that sort of surface against that attack. I expected a bit of a pinch hitter. I expected Will Jacks to go in at number 3 and not Bryden Carse. But at the end of the day, Bethel came in and I thought he played really, really well. It reminds me a bit of what Zach Crawley is. I mean, huge ceiling level. He's got the game. He has got everything he needs to sort of play at international level. Will he go on and score big hundreds? Has he got the concentration factor? Has he got the discipline to withstand respect good bowling at top level. Well, that's going to be, time will tell. But I think when he's on, there's nothing much better than watching Jacob Bethel hit the ball 360 degrees around the ground. And his positivity today, along with Crawley and Duckett at the top, I think put a big hole in the total, which England chased fourth innings and deservedly got over the line with a great win.
Okay, Harmy. Arjun says no one got a 50. I know we did mention the fact that only 6 people went past 30. Jason says not to get too excited, but England may have just won the Ashes. Memim says great moral victory. That will plaster over the last 3 Test matches for a bit longer. I wish that Stokes had been asked about that, by the way, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
We could have had 8 innings on that pitch, says No Handler 1493. I mean, it is incredible, isn't it? That the Perth Test and the Perth Test and the can't even remember where this was played. Melbourne Test. It's right, Scott. I could really remember. Didn't even last a full 5 days of one Test match, which is a little bit ridiculous. But we don't need to go back to that. Harmy, you're going to be back with Manners in a few days' time. I've lost track what day it is.
Me too.
But that always, Scott, stop saying this stuff in my ears. It's Saturday. But you'll be back in Manners on Tuesday. You've got a big interview taking place, actually. And then we'll be back for following on Ashes Inquest at the end of day 1 from the 5th and final Test match at the SCG 2026. Thanks for everything this year, Harmy. You've been brilliant as ever. And thank you for joining us here on the Following On podcast feed on talkSPORT 2 and the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. This has been Following On Ashes Inquest.
Hitting you for 6 with top order cricket conversation. Following on Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2.